Hey everyone, I'm Jack.
And I'm Robert.
And we recorded a thing that we're about to put up. This is the preamble to the thing.
This is the preamble to the thing.
I guess a prologue. There we go.
The thing before the thing.
Yeah. So anyway, this is like our attempt at a kind of long form discussion show where we pick a topic and then we talk about it. We may come up with answers or we may come up with nothing, but hopefully it's an interesting discussion that we've done some amount of research. I don't know. You sounded a lot smarter in it.
I dragged you off on tangents several times to get my point across rather than actually having the discussion, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Anyway, we just wanted to let you know that this was definitely the pilot, and there were a lot of things that we just wanted to try and go for it, and a lot of things that we noticed and went like, ugh, let's not do that again.
Yeah, I done screwed up 2 cameras out of the 3.
Yeah.
Not batting well.
Well, you know, it's a lot of technical work and something that we've never done before, and we're getting all crazy with multi-cameras, and, you know, we have to... learn. These are learning opportunities. That's what leadership courses have taught me. So leadership courses and fatherhood, learning opportunities. So, you're going to see some fuzzy cameras, but the overall camera, not terribly good of an angle and not terribly well focused, but it's probably going to be on your cell phone, so it doesn't really matter. It's fine.
And do you really want to stare at our faces for half an hour anyway?
Yeah. Well, the on-camera, us close-up face shots, mwah, chef's kiss. They're beautiful. The curtain hanging in the background, that's like a temporary curtain to cover up the, oh God, there's going to be a bunch of cars driving by all the time. Not so great. But, it's fine. It's fine?
It's fine.
Okay. Well, without further ado, here's our untitled... Oh, yeah. Let us know a title for the show. We need that, too.
Yeah. This show is titled Map to the Future, but the series, potential series.
Yes, this episode title is Map to the Future, which is very clever and very esoteric. All right. Please do enjoy Map to the Future from our entitled series, Casual Friday. I'm fighting for Casual Friday.
Sure.
Bye. Hey everyone, this is Jack and Robert from the Cardboard Herald, and we need to talk. This is a show where we're experimenting with just talking about a certain topic, and our name of today's show is Map to the Future, and Robert came up with that name. Why don't you tell us what this is all about, Robert?
I'm very proud of this terrible pun. Map to the Future is a reference to some news that came out recently. You might have heard about it on this news show called Off the Table.
Nice plug. I like it.
Yeah. About Jeff Berggren from the Gaming Goat, which is, I'll admit, a store I hadn't heard of, but I guess I've just...
It's like 20 stores. I don't know if they're all named the Gaming Goat, but this dude has, I guess the biggest retail gaming chain in the United States. It's a big deal for something I have never heard of.
Right. And a lot of people in the comments reading through this were saying that he has aspirations of becoming the Walmart of board games, which...
Oh.
I don't know that that's really what you want to be known as, but okay. I mean, I guess if your goal is lots of volume, and that seems to be his goal, then sure. But anyway, he put a post on Reddit about basically calling out Stonemaier Games and saying, hey, these guys claim to be pro-friendly local game store. They're totally not. Here are my reasons why. And Jamie kind of passively aggressively responded in some threads on BGG and elsewhere.
He has a tendency to do that. Jamie tends to react emotionally to things, and I think that's one of the things that people latch onto with him is that he seems very authentic. Mm-hmm. Like, he does carry an overall kind of I am welcoming business person, but if something is going amiss, he has no problem with going in there and saying exactly what's on his mind and then apologizing profusely for what he said shortly thereafter.
Yeah. So anyway, one of the central themes that this guy came back to was that Jamie, for a while, and from his post, I thought this was recently. I'm finding out now this is actually last year around this time. So almost a year ago now, he implemented something called a MAPP, a minimum advertised price policy, specifically for Amazon only. And I actually was just reading his post that he made back in January of this year, which we'll hopefully have a link to down below, talking about why he implemented that and what he hoped to get out of it. But that probably comes back after the drama. We'll get into that a little bit more.
Right. So we were talking about this before the concept of this show actually came into existence, and we've thought about having some sort of discussion-based video show that isn't quite what our podcast features have been up until this point, where we're more having a tight focus on one individual subject. And while the MAPP agreement and the ensuing fallout between the gaming goat... Oh, things are happening between the Gaming Goat and Stonemaier Games was definitely something that I wanted to talk about. I thought the broader implication of this is whose responsibility it is to support a friendly local game store, the FLGS.
Camera's cut.
Yours did?
Camera battery dead.
Oh, good. Well, pause for technical difficulties, I guess.
Pause for technical difficulties. Okay, back from technical difficulties here. So what I was saying is that I think that the broader implications of this, the thing that it most made me think about is what responsibility do consumers and also publishers have of supporting friendly local game stores? Because the post that Jeff made came from a position that felt kind of entitled to me, that there's an expectation that friendly local game stores need to be supported in order to thrive. And that may be true, and that definitely was the pervasive thought maybe 10 or 15 years ago, but that was 10 or 15 years ago, and I thought we could maybe hash out some of that in this video.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to talk about a little bit about the post? I mean, my impetus for this was, I'll admit, a lot of it was somebody was wrong on the internet, and I want to set the record straight.
Let's hear it. I want to hear about how someone is wrong on the internet in a video on the internet.
Yeah. So it's kind of complaining about somebody else having hubris by having my own hubris, but I mean, it just... I don't have I have never had an interaction with Jamie. I know a lot of people have. I know a lot of people love him. So I kind of questioned whether it was like I was reflexively defending him when I was reading this post, but I don't think I have any real reason to. I mean, I like Wingspan, I like Viticulture, but I don't like. It's not like they're my favorite games ever. I don't play them all the time. I don't have any dog in this fight, as they say. But from the beginning of Jeff's post, it just didn't seem right. And I was on my phone when I was reading it, and so for whatever reason, the pictures he posted, they loaded as 3 pixels when you opened them up on a phone, but when I looked at them later and could actually read what he posted, none of it was really the evidence that he was claiming he put out there. He had a bunch of email screen caps, but they were all from his side, and it was him just saying, woe is me. He showed very few of Jamie's responses. The only one I specifically remember was the one that he kept posting again and again, which was Jamie saying, stop contacting me, I will not respond via email again. And overall, I just got the impression, and I've kind of got the impression from reading other stuff that Jeff has posted, that he likes picking fights. He is a very abrasive personality, and is very convinced that he's right. And so it ultimately seemed like he just kept harping on the same points. Jamie would say, no, I don't agree with that. And he would just keep badgering him, and eventually Jamie felt the need to just say, stop.
Right. Let's talk about the content of the post itself, because his main issues were with the MAPP agreement, and then also there were some issues with the scarcity. He was saying that there's a false scarcity of Stonemaier Games products, and that is controlled in order to make them seem like they are rare things and people will buy them at premium prices. And then there was also the overall, I guess, the thing that it concluded with was saying, I wouldn't have such a problem with this stuff if it weren't that Stonemaier Games presented themselves as being very pro-retail, when these are distinctively, in my eyes, Jeff saying this, that Stonemaier Games is very anti-retail.
Right. Well, so in order, the MAPP agreement, and again, I kind of had the impression that this was more of a recent thing, but it must have taken place last year because Jamie said he ended the MAPP agreement in October. Jeff, by his own admission, ordered 1,000 copies of My Little Scythe for, I don't know what, all of his stores, I guess, because according to him in his post, it was presented to retailers as being a rare thing. And so my question about that is, so if you think it's rare and you order 1,000 copies, your expectation is that you're going to sell almost all of those copies of that game. So that doesn't, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, so you were trying to corner the market. You didn't. There turned out to be a lot more copies than you expected. So your 1,000 was a drop in the bucket. Sucks to be you.
Yeah, there's more copies and also less demand. So My Little Scythe, I think what happened is that Stonemaier viewed it as, hey, this is kind of a novelty. We're going to print these, and we think that people are going to buy them like hotcakes, but we don't know if this is going to be something that we print in perpetuity, and we're certainly not going to have it inside the numbers or anything. So if you want some, I don't know how soon we're going to have any more.
Yeah, and I mean, he didn't present any proof. He had no screenshots of emails saying, hey, this is going to be rare. It was kind of unclear from his post whether it even came from Jamie. Jamie may not have said anything of the sort. It might have just been the distributor saying, hey, we don't think we're going to have very many copies of this, and he ordered 1,000. Maybe he was the only one who ordered anything, and so he got them all, and anyway, it led to, he didn't think he could sell them in his brick and mortar stores, so he decided, I'm going to dump them onto Amazon, which will be ironic later. And so he put them on Amazon and ran into a problem that Amazon themselves were undercutting his price. And Jamie had instituted this minimum advertised price agreement, which said you can't sell for less than 20% under MSRP on Amazon, or rather you can't advertise that price. And then they had this big argument about what advertising meant.
Right.
And Jamie basically said, you can't list it for less than 20% under. And their argument seemed to be, well, if we use this feature on Amazon that hides the price from you until you add it to your cart, then that's not advertising it, and therefore we can list it for whatever price we want because we're not advertising it. And Jamie said, well, no, because if you're logged in, you still see that price. You don't have to add it to your cart or anything. I don't know. I didn't go down into the weeds. Jeff claimed that he did, and that the internet agrees with him that if you do this, it's not considered advertising. It's funny how
angry people on the internet tend to say, and everyone agrees with me on this.
Right. So I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. It sounds kind of vaguely interesting in a sad sort of way to go research all of it and decide who actually is right. But ultimately, whoever was legally in the right, he was obviously subverting the intent. And this post from Jamie where he explained his MAPP experiment, he said that his intention was to keep people from driving the price down in just a runaway race to the bottom on Amazon, because everybody was always going to be trying to undercut everybody else. And he said, I'm just going to put a floor on it. You can't go below 20%. And then and the irony here is he did it, at least according to him, to keep people from undercutting brick and mortar stores.
Right.
That people would not be as tempted to go to Amazon because the brick and mortar stores could still be competitive with the price.
And that's the theory. But, Stonemaier ended up stopping the MAPP policy because I think in a post that was earlier this year or even end of last year, where he was talking about how it was kind of like a failed policy. Yeah. It was just too much management and too much micromanagement of retailers and distributors. And it sounds like this is very much the kind of thing that Stonemaier ended up not wanting to have to deal with.
Right. And the other thing that he said that was interesting was that he had hoped that because Amazon seemed to set their price based on the lowest price that was advertised on Amazon, that if nobody was advertising 20% under, then Amazon would sell at 20% under MSRP.
Right.
That worked for a little while, but after a while, he said it looked like they were looking web-wide, and if anybody advertised it below the 20% under, then they would match that and undercut it by a little bit. And so at that point, like, he had no control over it. There was no way he was going to be able to keep people. And he said, you know what? All right, go back to doing what you're doing. I think it's, bad for you, but I can't control it. I can't police you.
Well, let's talk about the false scarcity thing, because Wingspan is obviously the biggest game to come out this year, and I don't think anyone really anticipated that. Maybe Stonemaier Games did. That's the conspiracy theory, right? Is that they knew that it was going to be this big of a game, and they put a stranglehold on the manufacturing, or at least the distribution of the game. And Stonemaier Games is making some money off of that, including the reprints where it's like, yo, you pay air freight shipping, then we will get you advanced copies in order to fulfill this. But I think the initial speculation, and Stonemaier made several posts about this, was that they thought that this was going to be a good selling game, and they decided to order based off of that, but they had no idea that this would be the massive hit with such incredible broad appeal that it has.
Right. I mean, Jamie had said in his kind of, I think even Jeff in his post referred to it as Jamie's mea culpa that wasn't a mea culpa. But I mean, that's kind of the whole debate here. In March, on the date of the official release date for Wingspan, Jamie said, look, I asked around, and I forget if he said I think he asked distributors, and he said, hey, I've got this Euro-style game. It's about birds. How many copies should I print? And the distributors all said 10,000. Now, I don't know how that number shakes out. I don't know how many units most games would sell. Like Scythe, for instance. How much was their first print run? I don't know. So 10,000 might be high, might be low. Sounds like quite a few games. He didn't really think that was out of the ordinary. It's a Euro game. Unsure how much people might like that. And, part of his thing was saying, well, maybe I should have offered some more details because it's so much more than just a Euro-style game about birds. But anyway, he ordered 10,000. He ordered those back in fall of 2018. So right. September last year, about the time this whole map thing was going down. It takes apparently 4 or 5 months to get them printed, shipped. I mean, especially shipped, because they throw them on a boat. It gets here when it gets here.
Slow boat from China.
Right. And he expected them to get here around January. They got here. He started taking pre-orders. He planned on doing a week of pre-orders. Mm-hmm. He had 5,100 pre-orders for this game.
Right. The demand was bonkers. And I think just the initial reviews, and then I think the story building up surrounding Wingspan, I mean, it almost has a mythos, a cult around it that is kind of separate from the game at this point, and we're still in the early days of its release. I mean, this is May that we're recording this video, and the official release was only 2 months ago. Right. And I imagine that Stonemaier is going to be keeping up with demand for quite some time. And the thing about this is that Stonemaier started as a Kickstarter company. They historically utilized Kickstarter up through Scythe, and then after that, their games that came out were they had My Little Scythe, which we already talked about, did not sell to the numbers that were apparently expected. And then there was also Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, which I love that game, but it definitely didn't seem like it really stuck in the public conscience. I say words on podcasts and on videos, and maybe they work out. And then there was Wingspan, and I think this is the first slam dunk that they've had. And it could be that they were being a little bit cautious about rolling out a game about birds in a hobby that just wants sexy elves and spaceships.
I mean, that might be a little oversimplistic, but I guess you know your audience better than I do.
I know my wants better than you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was really the tone of Jamie's post, was like, I don't have any way of knowing. Like, it's so hard for me to know. And in some ways, that was the tone of Jeff's post too. Was a lot of what he was saying about Wingspan was, you should have known. And his evidence for that was, oh, well, I pre-ordered 3,000 of these through 4 different distributors. Well, his evidence of that was, as people pointed out in the comments, basically a screenshot of what looked like his internal inventory system, and it looked like it was an aspirational pre-order of, I hope I have these amount of copies. Right. and his 3,000 number was on the line that was marked to sell through Amazon. So really, he was hoping to order 400 copies to sell in his brick and mortar stores, those 20 stores that you mentioned earlier, and then he was hoping to make a bunch of money by selling the others through Amazon.
Totally. So let's talk about the other part of this is, like, what is our responsibility in the community of supporting the friendly local game store, the FLGS? And you hear this in all kinds of hobbies because I'm really big into cycling as well. And it's support your FLBS, your friendly local bike shop. But, the board game hobby has been so evangelical for a long time and adamant that you have to support the community. You have to do things to support the community. Even when you're a designer or a publisher, you're getting into the game, a lot of the advice you'll get is start a podcast, start a blog, do something for the community first to establish yourself. Give back to the community before asking for something. And I think that's born out of the necessity to have someone else to play these games with. Yeah. And for a long time, board game shops, friendly local game stores, were the places where you could organically go into and meet other people who are interested in these things. And also it could be a public face for people who aren't aware of games to go and be exposed to all these. To me, probably the biggest value now for a game store is having the environment to play and support, like, tournaments and community events. And then it's also the exposure to a breadth of games that you wouldn't necessarily seek out on the internet, right? So for a small publisher to have a game in a game store, then it can be sitting there right next to Wingspan, and it might catch someone's attention that it might not otherwise in Amazon or something. But, I mean, is it my job or is it Stonemaier Games' job in order to make sure that these are thriving businesses? Is it a necessity for the hobby, or is it the responsibility of the retailer themselves in order to make sure that they are providing something that brings someone in? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know that you gave me a whole lot to riff off of there. But, I mean, one of the things, and it is interesting to think about it, Jeff was definitely on the side of Jamie is not supporting the brick and mortar store.
Right.
But
why?
Yeah, I mean, there are two reasons why I think I would disagree. Two main reasons why I think I would disagree with that. One is I don't know that I would consider Jeff to be a brick and mortar store or like at least a friendly local game store.
Yeah.
Obviously, given his own evidence,
your friendly local Walmart.
Yeah,
of board games.
But even given like his own evidence of why he was ordering these games, 90% of his planned sales are online through Amazon. He's just trying to compete. Well, not really trying to compete with Amazon, but he's knowing that most of his sales are coming through there too. Now, his argument is he turns around and plows all those profits back into the brick and mortar stores. But he's not exactly the person that's, he's doing both, I guess.
Right.
At best. The other reason I'd say that is it's very obvious that Jamie's involved in the community and is trying to give back in his own way. I mean, he's trying to make a buck too, and it's not purely altruistic, but he is very responsive, as he says all the time. He responds to every comment on his forums, and also on BGG, and apparently also on Reddit, even if it's on BGG in a passive-aggressive thread of, oh, I'm not going to respond to that, I can't possibly be bothered. And he writes a ton of blog posts. He shoots a bunch of videos all about, I mean, even though he got out of the Kickstarter game, he still does how-tos of how to do your Kickstarter. He takes a look at it every so often in his blog. And, I mean, ultimately, he's looking for good games to get out there. And, would Elizabeth Hargrave have picked up with another publisher? Maybe. Maybe not. It's definitely a niche topic. But it caught on, and maybe Jamie had something to do with that. Maybe he saw something nobody else would have. I don't know, but I don't think, and I don't have any reason to disbelieve him when he says I actually am for these game stores, and I'm trying to do my best. It may not always seem that way, and it may not always work out the way he intended. But this policy that Jeff from the Gaming Goat is complaining about, if we believe what Jamie said, and Jeff doesn't,
Right,
he was intending it to keep this price cutting, this rampant price cutting, that I think people are afraid that it's the same thing that happened to bookstores is going to happen to the game stores. And Jamie was trying to prevent that by not allowing Amazon to undercut everybody so severely.
Right. And, you know, like Stonemaier Games, like you said, it's not entirely altruistic. Like Stonemaier Games wants a thriving gaming hobby because that's going to hopefully create more gamers who they can sell to. But also at the same time, you know, just based off of facts, whether it's altruistic or not, you know, Stonemaier Games supports tournaments, provides materials to conventions. You know, there are examples of where Stonemaier is, and many other companies as well, are providing to local hobby points of community, I guess, whether it's the game store or it's you know, local tournaments at conventions, that kind of stuff. And I guess the thing that I'm most thinking about here is that it is extremely difficult now for a game store to be a thriving business. Like, you have to innovate. It's 2019 and everything is available on Amazon. Even brick and mortar game stores are selling things on Amazon. And while I do want to support the community aspect of that game store, I also have to like respect my own wallet and my own family's needs. And if, you know, going to Amazon or a different online retailer is going to get me a game for 40 or 50% less than going to a brick and mortar store, is it my fault or a problem with me that I'm not the one who's, you know, actually going and spending that to keep that money local? And there are a ton of reasons why you should consider at least buying local. You know, you're supporting local business, you're keeping money in your own community, it's providing jobs in your own community. But at the same time, you know, we live in a capitalist society, and like I have to take into consideration, is there a better way for a publisher to get games to my door and provide me the games that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do if they couldn't do that? And Stonemaier is in a position where they at least could experiment with this MAPP policy or other hobby-focused or I guess brick and mortar focused initiatives to maybe make the whole playground a little bit more fair. So I tend to give them a bit of a benefit of the doubt, but also I do have a wall of Stonemaier Games behind me, so maybe that clouds my judgment a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that Jamie says that they do is he did say they don't, while they do sell to I think it was Flat River is the distributor that then sells to Amazon. Well, I don't want to say shorts, but he gives them a lower percentage of the games that go out to all distributors for the early print runs, so that they can go to the distributors that are getting them to the brick and mortar stores, with the idea that they get in front of people that might not have heard of it. They can see it, they can maybe see it played or play it in the store if there's, you know, if the store has a demo copy or whatever, or somebody else buys it and wants to play with people. And I mean, again, it's not entirely altruistic. The more people that play it, the more people that see it, the more people are going to like it, the more people are going to want to buy it. But, you know, his idea is, if we gave it to Amazon in the normal percentage, you know, with whether that's 50% or whatever, everybody's going to buy through Amazon, you know, and especially in something like this where there is an inventory shortage. If Amazon had all of them, they're going to get all the sales, you know, and if everybody did that, then the brick and mortar stores would shut down. The idea behind that is, you know, the brick and mortar store is the place where people go to congregate. And I think, as you said earlier, maybe that has changed now. And I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One, gaming conventions like PAX Unplugged, another plug back to off the table.
We're going to be there. Maybe recording one of these.
We will be there. But, you know, people show up there. I did not expect it when we went, but literally half the floor there is just people showing up playing games with each other. That's a big part of it, and for a lot of people that's the entire purpose of PAX. They don't care that there are publishers and distributors and what designers there in booths.
Right, and there's other conveniences. I mean, you can have the community aspect through forums, you know,
Right.
like BGG, our board games on Reddit. I mean, those provide access to strong, healthy communities with tons of discussion and exposure to all kinds of stuff. Facebook groups. I mean, the idea that I had earlier about getting exposure to certain games that might not otherwise be seen, you find all kinds of stuff if you're engaged in any number of these different groups online. So that community can be facilitated in a somewhat legitimate facsimile online.
Right.
But, you know, I don't know. Like, the point of this discussion, I think, was just to kind of hash out and think about the different perspectives in this, and what I'd like this show to be going forward is not being the guys on the internet who have the answers for you. We are not having all of our hot takes where we definitively know exactly how you should proceed. We wanted to be able to just talk about this stuff and think about different perspectives and have some, you know, thoughtful discourse. And I think we've had some of that. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, this is kind of, in spite of itself, this whole thing has made me think about where I buy my games and maybe considering buying them somewhere else in the future. You know, I think most of the games that I have come from Amazon or direct from the publisher at PAX or elsewhere, and so.
But then again, we may be in a unique situation because we're in Juneau, Alaska, where we don't have access to the Gaming Goat. But if the Gaming Goat decides to open their Walmart of board games up here, maybe we'll have another discussion.
I think I would rather support something like, say, Alaska Robotics than the Gaming Goat, but that's just me.
Yeah. We do have some good game stores here. They're not exactly the mega stores that you see around, but we do have quite a few local businesses that are trying to bring games to gamers all over Southeast Alaska, which is pretty great. Now, for all of those of you who are watching, if you have any thoughts about anything that we've talked about today, if you have any insider information about Stonemaier Games or the Gaming Goat, you have some beef that you want to pick with us or them, then go ahead and put it in the comments below. And if you want to hear us talk about any other topics, we'd love to see this series continue. If you have a suggestion for a name, I mean, I'd love to hear that too, because we're really not sure what we're doing with this pilot right now, but it'll morph into something, I think. I hope.
Does that mean you're shooting down the Robert's Rants idea?
Robert's Rants, there we go. But is it exclusively going to be Robert and a rotating chair of guests that are always Jack Eddy on it? We'll see. To be determined. Let us know what we should do. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks, Robert. If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.